Maria sat on the edge of her worn-out sofa, staring at the nearly empty baby bottle. Her infant son, Lucas, cried softly in her arms. She had stretched the last can of formula as far as she could, watering it down, praying each bottle would fill his little tummy. But now, there was nothing left. Her minimum wage job at the diner barely covered rent and utilities. With tips drying up, every dollar mattered, and tonight, she had no idea how she was going to feed her baby. Her phone buzzed with a reminder. Rent due in 3 days. Panic clawed at her chest. She had tried everything, borrowing from co-workers, asking neighbors, even selling the few pieces of jewelry she had. But no one could help. Desperate, Maria scrolled through her contacts, hoping maybe anyone would lend her just enough to buy a can of formula. Her tired fingers typed a message through tears. "Hi. I'm so sorry to bother you. I wouldn't ask if it wasn't urgent. My baby doesn't have any formula left. Could you possibly help me with just $30? I promise I'll pay you back." Her hands shook as she hit send. She thought she had texted her old high school friend Clara, who had sometimes helped in emergencies. But in her exhaustion, Maria had mistyped a digit. Instead of Clara, the message went to Ethan Cole, a reclusive billionaire known for his empire in tech but rarely seen outside boardrooms and news articles. Ethan was in his penthouse office overlooking the glittering skyline when his phone buzzed. At first, he ignored it. Random texts and wrong numbers weren't unusual for someone of his stature. But something about the raw desperation in those words made him pause. He reread the message. Baby doesn't have any formula left. It wasn't a scam. It wasn't polished. It was real. For the first time in years, Ethan felt something stir in him, curiosity mixed with compassion. He typed back, "I think you have the wrong number. But, are you really out of food for your child?" Maria's cheeks flushed with embarrassment when she saw the reply. Wrong number, of course. She wanted to bury her face in her hands. But then she read the second line, and her heart stopped. Whoever this stranger was, he had asked about her baby, with trembling fingers. She replied, "Yes, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to bother you. I'll figure something out." Ethan leaned back in his chair. A billionaire receiving a desperate mother's plea by accident. It felt almost like fate. Something in him refused to let it go. He typed one last message. "Don't worry about paying me back. Tell me what store is near you, and I'll make sure you get what you need tonight." Maria stared at the screen in disbelief. Could it be real? Could a stranger actually care? She didn't know she had just texted one of the wealthiest men in the country, and that her life was about to change forever. Ethan Cole wasn't a man who entertained distractions. His life was spreadsheets, negotiations, and a calendar so packed his assistant often begged him to take a vacation. But that night, he couldn't shake Maria's message. Why hadn't she asked for more money? Why just $30? If it was a scam, it was the worst one he'd ever seen. He instructed his driver to deliver formula, diapers, and groceries to the address Maria hesitantly provided after much reassurance, but curiosity gnawed at him. Who was this woman? Why was she struggling so much? Ethan had grown up with wealth but not warmth. His father, a ruthless tycoon, believed charity made people weak. Ethan had built his empire with the same coldness until tonight. He opened the grocery receipt his driver sent back. The apartment was in one of the city's poorest neighborhoods. He couldn't explain why, but he felt compelled to see for himself. Meanwhile, Maria clutched Lucas close as she opened her door to find bags of groceries stacked outside. Formula, fresh produce, bread, even baby wipes, all more than she had asked for. Tears blurred her vision as she whispered, "Thank you," though the deliveryman was already gone. For the first time in months, Lucas fell asleep with a full stomach. Maria did too, not knowing the stranger she'd texted was watching from a distance. From his car across the street, Ethan saw the light go out in her small apartment. Something inside him shifted. This wasn't charity anymore. This was personal. The next morning, Ethan made a decision. He didn't want to be the billionaire swooping in with money. He wanted to understand her life. So, he dressed simply: jeans, plain shirt. No watch worth more than her rent. To her, he would just be Ethan, a kind stranger. The diner where Maria worked, Ethan walked in and quietly sat at a booth. She was there, wearing a faded apron, her hair tied back, exhaustion etched on her face. But despite her struggles, she greeted every customer with warmth. When she reached his table, she smiled softly. "Coffee? Yes, please," he replied, studying her. Up close, he could see the determination in her eyes. The way she carried herself despite the weight she bore. As the hours passed, Ethan returned again and again, learning about her piece by piece. Maria never complained, never asked for more. She spoke only of her son and how she wanted him to have a better life. One evening, when Lucas fell asleep in her arms at the diner's corner booth, Ethan gently asked, "Do you ever get help from family?" Maria shook her head. "It's just me. Always has been. But that's okay. He's worth every struggle." Ethan felt his throat tighten. He hadn't expected her strength to humble him. And yet, he still hadn't told her who he really was. Weeks passed. Maria grew comfortable with Ethan's presence, thinking he was just a kind-hearted man who liked coffee and late-night talks. But one evening, her coworker gasped when she saw him. "Maria, do you know who that is?" "That's Ethan Cole, the billionaire." Maria froze. The mug in her hand slipped, shattering on the floor. She turned to him, eyes wide. "Is that true?" Ethan sighed, knowing the moment had come. "Yes, I didn't want you to treat me differently. I just wanted to know you. The real you." Maria's knees weakened. She felt overwhelmed, embarrassed, even betrayed. "Why would someone like you waste time with someone like me?" Ethan's voice was steady, almost gentle. "Because someone like you reminded me what it means to care. You texted me by mistake. But maybe it wasn't a mistake at all." Tears welled in her eyes. She didn't want charity. She wanted dignity. "I don't need pity," she whispered. "It's not pity," he said firmly. "It's respect. You fight every day for your child with more strength than most CEOs fight for their empires. That's worth more than all the money in the world." Slowly, Maria let herself trust him again. Ethan didn't shower her with gifts. Instead, he gave her opportunities. He set up a scholarship fund in Lucas's name, ensuring he would never go hungry or miss school. He helped Maria enroll in business classes, quietly mentoring her to build a future for herself. But more than that, Ethan gave her something money couldn't buy: companionship, respect, and hope. Months later, Maria stood outside her small but cozy new apartment, watching Lucas toddle across the living room. Ethan stood beside her, not as a billionaire above her, but as a man who had chosen to walk with her. "Do you ever think about how strange it all started?" Maria asked with a smile. Ethan chuckled. "A wrong number." She nodded. "The best mistake I ever made." And with that, what began as a desperate plea for baby formula turned into a story neither of them could have imagined: a story of second chances, unexpected kindness, and a love that changed everything.